All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on how management consulting firms deliver innovative solutions with low code. My name is Matt Johnson, and I'm the Partner Enablement Manager here at Caspio. While everyone joins in, we wanted to share a quick video about Caspio for those that are new to the platform and the low code space.
Building a custom web application is complex. You need skilled developers, big budgets, and lots of time.
Developing custom software using traditional tools is very labor intensive.
I'm not a hardcore coder. I don't do that. I've never had that experience.
I have zero experience in coding or any IT experience at all.
Now, there's a better way to bring your business ideas to life. With Caspio, you can build sophisticated web applications without programming. Caspio's all-in-one cloud platform provides visual point-and-click tools instead of coding. Create powerful, secure, and scalable applications in a matter of hours instead of days.
We worked on this project using Caspio in literally 40% of the time that it would have taken to work on the same project using conventional software development tools.
Caspio had that right balance of easy to use up front, but then also something that I could extend to a more integrated platform.
Now that Caspio has taken our business up a level and streamlined our systems, we're actually able to design and move through the process of engineering a ride much faster.
So, what are you waiting for?
It's pretty straightforward, it's cost effective, and you can really do some pretty impressive things with a tool that isn't that hard to use.
Join thousands of happy customers. Sign up for a free trial and get started today.
All right, so in this webinar, our partner Axelita will share how low code can help your management consulting firm deliver innovative solutions to your clients. We want to make this webinar a fun and interactive experience for everyone, so please go over to the chat, say hi, drop us a comment, and throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window to leave us questions throughout the event. We'll make sure to have plenty of breaks to cover these questions and get everything answered at the end of the webinar as well. Again, thanks so much everyone for being here. We have an information-packed webinar for you today, so I'll quickly share a brief agenda and then get you over to our great content. My colleague Nick will start things off with a fireside chat with Renee, where they will discuss experiences, best practices, and learnings for management consulting firms. Renee will also share some experience and some live engagements that he has done on Caspio. Again, we'll have multiple breaks throughout the webinar, so please keep the questions coming. We will also be sharing a recording of today's discussion with all the attendees once the webinar is completed. With that, I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Nick.
Oops, would help if I unmuted first, but thanks, Matt, and hello, everyone. My name is Nick Sangui, and I lead the Alliances team here at Caspio. And it is my pleasure to consult with our partners and customers on whether Caspio is the right tool for them. Coming to the topic of today's webinar, in today's day and age, businesses are increasingly demanding more from their management consulting or business consulting firms that they engage with. They are no longer happy with just a fancy strategy deck delivered as the outcome of a consulting project. And so they're asking for more, and the increased competition is also prompting more and more business and management consulting firms to deliver more in the form of outcome-based engagements. So oftentimes the pricing is also based on the outcomes that are delivered. And here is just a quick, as we were preparing for this webinar, these are just some of the quick items that we noted on the top 3 management consulting firms websites. this year is McKinsey Digital that's saying low code, no code, a way to transform shadow IT into a next gen technology asset. This is Boston Consulting Group, low code, no code, all hands on deck. And this is Bain and Company, which also has a broader article on reinventing business through automation. But one of the ways that they identify, one of the important technologies that they identify to achieve more value from automation is low code automation here. And so that's going to be the topic of discussion for today's webinar. Renee comes to us with a impressive background in the management consulting space, both at top firms such as McKinsey, as well as boutique firms like Axelita and V2A Consulting. And so with that, there's a lot of great insights that we're looking forward to extracting from Renee today. And so I'll jump right over into the fireside chat. But we want to keep this as interactive as possible. We want this to be for the audience's benefit. So please feel free to chime in. Use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, Zoom screen window for sharing your questions, or use the chat function to say hi to us or with any other comments that you might have. So with that, Renee, let's get started. And maybe for the benefit of the audience, if we could just kind of take a step back and start with your origin story, that would be great.
Well, yes, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Nick and Matt, for the invitation. I enjoy a lot working with you guys, and in particular, sharing our Caspio story, which I think it's should be interested for the consulting crowd in the audience. So a little bit of me and my background. I have about 20 years of experience in consulting. First with McKinsey and Company. I stayed 6 years in McKinsey, and then between 12 and 14 years in V2A Consulting was part of my firm. Doing mostly work in operations regarding operations improvement or process redesign in the financial industry, in the financial services industry, healthcare, and government. In 2014, we as part of V2A Consulting, we saw that larger firms such as McKinsey and Boston Consulting Group were moving towards the digitalization of some of the operations. So we also wanted to replicate that, and so we started a smaller sister company that we called Axelita, which is the meaning of the word is accelerated or accelerate. And it was very fitting that we wanted to do that because we understood that we wanted to develop technological solutions as part of our consulting offering to develop greater value for our clients. In a quite interesting note, the name Axelita was actually Franz Zamani, your CEO, was the one who helped us come up with an Esperanto name, and that's we loved the how it sounded and how it looked, and that's why we have kept it for now 8 years as part of our company. So that's basically my story. In terms of background, engineer, very tech curious, but definitely not a developer. I cannot qualify as a coder by any means, or I always dreamt to, but I'm not a coder. I do like technology a lot and how it enhances and enables businesses.
That's great. Thanks, Renee. And so now, we briefly touched upon at a high level about how management consulting firms are not stopping at just like strategy or vision anymore, but going all the way through to execution and outcomes. Would love to hear your insights and perspectives. Of course, V2A itself stands for vision to action. So you guys were very much in the vanguard of that movement. So would love to hear your thoughts on and perspectives on that.
Well, I think that management consulting as a profession has evolved, since the very beginning to serve their clients better. and you have to give it to the bigger firms that have been fast or nimble enough to recognize that. And looking at larger firms going into digital is just a good testament to that. They're reacting to what their clients are requiring from them. In our case, in our specific case, as a smaller firm, after I left McKinsey and established with my partners in V2A Consulting Vision to Action, our value proposition to our market and our clients was that we not only help you craft a strategy, we will help you to put it in action. So the vision to action, it had that play, but also it is core to the value proposition of the firm, of the V2A consulting kind of way to do consulting. And as we progressed, and that this was early maybe 2010, 2008, as we progressed, we saw the need to provide our clients with, as part of the action side, some tools and some digital enablement. That was very early on, but it was because we were involved in implementations and not only in the strategic side, but also in implementations. So frankly, this is not something that we invented by any means. I mean, all the consultants saw this coming. And I think that a lot of things has happened. And those articles that you have there, Nick, it's, pandemic accelerated everything, right? So there's a lot of that has happened, mostly in the mindset of anyone that it's hiring the management consultants that are more, open to experiment with newer things, and also requiring more value delivered by the firms. For every penny that they spend in consulting, they want to have results in business. And it's just a reaction of all the management consulting firms incorporating these tools to their value prop. Actually, when you look at the larger ones as a precursors of what is going on, the McKinseys and the BCGs are by themselves are software factories, if you will. They have hundreds of developers already under McKinsey Digital or any other, I don't know what other names, BCG or Bain have, but they're definitely moving into the space of developing solutions for the clients, actually maintaining those as SaaS, as software as a service, and having that new revenue stream becoming an important part of their net profit. So yeah, they saw the opportunity to serve the clients better, but they also saw the opportunity of a new business that it's a little bit more, less reliant on the amount of hours that you have to invest in projects. Once you do a project, you develop a solution, you have a SaaS model there that with a subscription, it gives you a new revenue stream. And we argue, the smaller guys, we argue that we can do the same at our scale using low-code tools such as Caspio, and also, trying to offer that to our clients, right? So, I see this as a great thing for the management consulting profession, just moving from the strategy and adding execution to it, because it just helps, remove a little bit the joke. Every time we got into a client, the joke was we didn't do anything. We just said, things that everybody knew. So right now we have the opportunity as consultants to show that not only we can help you as a client to think and sort through difficult problems, we can also help you implement and execute with digital tools. So that's what we see in the market.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for those perspectives, Rene. So, and speaking of Caspio and low code, no code within the realm of management consulting, how did you come across Caspio? How did you discover Caspio, and what were your early experiences like?
So, I discovered Caspio in 2011, and we were actually doing a process improvement project or engagement for a large financial institution. We were tasked with redesigning the commercial loan origination process, which was taking extremely long times, and it was a very convoluted process. So as we engage with our client, the first step, as in any consulting project, you do, actually we did that during interviewing for the proposal, but we had to do a diagnostic. So as part of that diagnostics of the process and how long it took every step of the process, we had to, measure times. And the way we typically did that in the back when we didn't have digital tools, we basically grabbed a case, a application for a loan, and literally timestamp it with at every desk that case, went through. And then you had someone, a poor business analyst, just going over that and typing that up in an Excel so that you could basically know how much time it took at every point and how long it took from one point to the other. So looking to do this a little bit more efficient, I started looking for a cloud-based database that would allow us to do the timestamping, but digital, kind of, placing a widget on the desk or the desktop of our clients and ask them, instead of, timestamping the case here, just introduce the number of the case and click. And so that was the idea. That was the original idea. So when we did the Google search for on cloud, on the cloud database, we found Caspio, and that really, helped us to not only collect the way I described the timestamp, but doing it in different locations at the same time, so we could gather a lot of information and analyze it in a very short time, and gather information from different places where the loan was originated. So once we saw that value, we started exploring the tool a little bit more, and we ended up actually learning a lot more about Caspio. And you guys, I want to shout out to Napoleon, who was the first person I talked to in Caspio. So he helped us a lot to understand what the capabilities of Caspio were. And we ended up actually enabling a whole workflow in which our client could run the whole process digitally. So not only we started with a timestamp, we ended up with a commercial origination application that actually we did a sister application for appraisal reviews in commercial. So we ended up optimizing that process and lowering it, the lead times for a case, for a commercial case, was around 80 to 100 days, and we lowered it during the project between 20 to 35 days or 50, depending on the asset or the type of commercial loan that you're doing. It could be as fast as a 30-day kind of a mortgage loan, but you could lower it to 50 days on a more complex commercial transaction. So we were very happy with the new superpower we discovered with these tools, because we had no coders, and so we use our own consultants that, of course, these are smart people, very driven. And as soon as they understood how Caspio worked, they kind of, did the training on them, by themselves, and they enabled this tool that was very impactful for our client and for us at that point in time, as for Vision to Action as a firm. It literally changed how we deliver value to our clients at that time. 2011, just imagine that, 2011 and 12. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then that goes just to show our kind of rich heritage and background as one of the pioneers in the low-code space. We've been around for more than 20 years. But that was an interesting comment, Renee, and thanks for that compliment of us, giving you those superpowers. So could you elaborate on that a little bit further? What did you like, and what was it about Caspio that gave you those superpowers?
Well, one of the things that was very frustrating as a consultant was, when you go into a client and you have these great ideas of implementing process improvements, we purposely skirted, like avoided IT implementation things, because they would take so much time. Our engagement, usually it's maybe 3 to 4 months, and implementation of IT solutions would take 18 months. Only the requirement gathering stage would be at the 4 month. So if we wanted to deliver value while we were engaged, traditional development didn't fit the bill. So thinking about what we like the most, and we still like the most, is the fact that you can, while you're engaged in a client, you can deliver tools that would show the value of what we proposed or redesigned. So it's first and foremost, it's allowed us to add more value to our client when we were there. The other thing that we liked is that the word superpower applies not only to me, or it was also to the consultants, because as I said, we have very capable people working with us, very driven, and so giving them a tool that allowed them to create things and solve problems on their own, rather than depending on other people to do things, it really empowered them to come up with solutions that were very interesting. More than once in a project, we found one of our associates or business analysts doing, crafting a small solution, a small app, to solve either a data gathering problem or a surveying or an actual, complement to whatever the process or the engagement we were doing. And that was recognized and applauded by us, because we think that that's adding value to the client. Now, when you think about that, then the security minded people would be going like, well, that's kind of shadow IT, right? So in a way it was, but in another way, one of the things that we liked about Caspio is that it's a very centralized, you can actually understand what everybody's doing and how they're doing it. Actually, it's a very well defined or controlled way to deploy or give tools to your associates or analysts, and understand what they're doing, in effect, in a sense that it's complete visibility. So I was tasked with managing the Caspio platform myself for our firm. And in order to provide access to the associates, it was only me who provided that. So I knew who was doing something in Caspio, and I had visibility of everything that was going on. So I liked it very much. The fact that as a firm, we could use a tool that has the security that we need to provide to our clients, and has the visibility, internal visibility, that nobody's doing, mischievous things with the tool. We know what is being done and how it's being done, and that was very important to us, as a consultant firm, and to our clients. Actually, we gave visibility to our clients. Listen, this is one low-code tool that we use. And this is one of the things that helped about using Caspio, is that you guys, as you would said, Nick, 20 years on the market, you got SOC 2 certifications, you got HIPAA compliance certification, you got a lot of things that we didn't have to have. So we basically defer or use that to provide our clients. So we're using this platform, and our consultants are going to use Caspio in this way. And here are all the qualifications of the platform, and you can go check them. So our clients did that, and after we do that, it's easy to implement small solutions within our clients. So those are the things. Just to summarize, the superpower, I liked the fact that we empowered our consultants, that we have a centralized way to control whatever happens and whoever is doing what with Caspio. And I could sleep at night with the security being taken care of someone that is capable, and I've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
So those are the benefits.
Great. That's good. Yeah. And so how do you get started with like your first project, or how do you test the waters when you go about like your first, either it's an actual project, or you're kind of in an experimentative mindset where you want to see whether it's going to work or not? How do you go about that for the benefit of the audience?
I think that your question has two points of view, right? From you as a consultant, how to use a new tool, and then your client to accept a new, how to incorporate a new digital tool. So one thing that we did that was helpful for both internally and externally is to think of it as an MVP, right? So the way we approached all our projects, it's during the proposal phase, we actually show our clients how we will do the work using Caspio or low-code tools, for that means, to develop an MVP in a very short time that would help us and them, as a client, to understand what are those things about the process that we're redesigning that we might not be able to foresee when we started the project. So if you allow me, I can show you a specific. I have an example of how we craft a proposal that would include an MVP. So if let me share just one slide here.
Yes.
Sure. So I have one chart. Okay. So this is a real life example. And what we show here is basically we divided the project. And this is when we were testing the waters to see if our clients would accept the proposal, right? The proposition to develop a tool kind of in phases. This approach was very well received. So think of it as the work stream of the digital implementation, and there is a parallel work stream of the actual engagement per se that you're doing. So when we propose the digital enablement, we always do kind of an MVP, and in this case was a portal. So do a portal or an MVP portal where we can show the key value levers for the process that we were enabling. So for those that do not know the acronyms, it's MVP is the minimum viable product. What that means is that the essential functionalities that would be required in order to enable a process. So that's where we focused at the beginning. And low-code tools, and in particular Caspio, are very handy because you can develop these MVPs really quickly. Now, during the MVP development, you don't pay too much attention to the UI. It has to be nice. And we've learned that through time that you have to invest a little bit in UI at the beginning because people are expecting, they have a high bar with Apple and Amazon UI. So we have to give them an acceptable UI, but you don't overinvest in that at that stage. You want to overinvest in the functionalities that enable the process. So we have that first phase of an MVP. Then we pilot that using that MVP and then tweak and improve the process. So this is very much following a lean manufacturing mindset so that you iterate and then you improve the process continuously. And that's what we do during pilots. And those, this could be, the first phase could be 6 to 8 weeks, and then the pilot 4 weeks. So you're talking in a 12-week span, you have a solution that you could either make a decision as a client and help our clients to decide whether you want to continue to improve that MVP using the Caspio, AWS Caspio, Axelita, if you will, and infrastructure, or if you rather, once you saw how that MVP worked and how the pilot performed, you want to have that as part of a permanent development or enterprise add-on to your current system. So, and this decision point is where we sit with our clients and see objectively, this is what we built for you in this low-code tool, that it's an MVP. Let's understand what are the constraints that we have going forward. Is it cost, speed, flexibility? And do you want to keep it in-house, or do you don't mind have it managed by us or residing in a cloud? And once we make that decision, you can, as I said, go through the upper leaf in the chart that we're showing here. It's improving the Caspio tool, or going through a development from scratch in other infrastructure, while you keep the MVA and the MVP working. So you keep bringing that cache registry, keep you using the tool and running the process while you develop a more permanent tool. So, when you ask, Nick, how would, any consulting firm could, try to, get their feet wet, I would just start with something like this, trying to do an MVP and proposing an MVP to your client and using the MVP as a tool to iterate and improve the process and customer experience, get feedback. And based on that, decide whether you want to continue doing it within the infrastructure that Caspio provides, or you want to hire another firm or outsource developers to do a full implementation. And by the way, having an MVP that you iterated and tested in a pilot, if you're outsourcing and hiring other developers to do the formal or the enterprise tool, you already have a blueprint, a working blueprint that you can use as a reference for developers, and that should save you a lot of money in the requirement gathering phase, because it is there. You only have to say you have to replicate this in whatever other code you want to make that. So this is how I suggest to go about getting your feet wet and doing a low code project.
That's great. Yeah,
I
thanks for those.
if you have any other question.
Yeah. So, Rene, no, that was a great insight on how to approach the first project, maybe, and how to leverage Caspio or low code, no code tools within the proposal making stage, through to the MVP, and all the way through to the actual live engagement. And just for the benefit of the audience, all our consulting partners, be they IT consulting firms or management or business consulting firms, do get a free developer plan for as long as they are partners with Caspio. This is your account in which you can play around with, get your feet wet. Every consultant in your firm can get an account if they want to, and they can develop these sandbox applications, MVPs, pilots, etc., even demo them to customers to get their feedback, etc., as well. And then, of course, for the first few engagements, or should you not wish to develop that low-code capability in-house, you can also engage Caspio's managed application services, which is run by our own professional services team, or you can, of course, reach out to Rene and his firm, Excelita, which provides these sets of low-code capabilities to many other management consulting firms. And of course, Rene, having come from that background, would be able to relate to your problems and your challenges, much better as well. So just wanted to make that mention.
You bring a good point, Nick, in a sense that when I reflect upon what helped us to get our consultants to accept or embrace the tool, Caspio tool, and Caspio giving us a developer account was very liberating in a sense that we could actually do what you mentioned. So we could do small demos for proposals. So it's nothing more powerful that if you send a proposal and you send a link saying, hey, listen, here's an essential workflow as we see the process should go, or here's some data capturing thing that you can develop and use it during the proposal gathering or information gathering phase, and do some analysis even before you get into the engagement. And one thing we did while I was in V2A, and I do have some, it's the Caspio-thons, right? So Caspio-thons, it's as much as a technology process, it's a cultural process, right? So we kind of did every year or every 2 years, we gather our consultants and during a day, and the idea was to independently of the project that you're involved in, you can either take a path of developing internal tools for the firm or developing tools for some of your clients or your projects that you're currently engaged. So this is something that we run for a 24-hour. We never did it 24 hours because we didn't want to crunch. It's bad enough already in the project. So we wanted to make it fun, and we did it more like 8 to 10 hours. And this was very helpful to do because our consultants got engaged and learned about the tool, and they saw that they could develop tools in matter of hours that could solve at least part of the problems. And this was, I have to say again, it was in part due to the support that Caspio gave us, giving us a developer unlimited access to an account where we could have our consultants play and do many apps. In fact, in some of those Caspio-thons, some of the apps are still running internally, and some apps became business ideas that we tested. Some of them were not good enough, and they were left on the side, but some of them were business ideas that I think some of them are still working. So that's something beneficial. So in the other side of what, to the initial question of how companies would adopt some low-code tools, you have to be mindful about the human aspect and your consultants' mindsets and skills. And having this kind of sessions did really help our consultants to develop a basic proficiency in Caspio, and most importantly, to understand how it worked and how could it be applied, so that let up the level, increase the level of proficiency of everybody in terms of digital solutions in our firms. Sorry, I had to mention that when you mentioned that.
No, absolutely. No, that's great. And for the audience, just wanted to again remind you all that this is an interactive session. Please feel free to chime in with your questions. You're on the field, you're seeing challenges, etc. If any of what Renee is sharing with you resonates and you have further questions, feel free to add here in the Q&A, but using Q&A button here in Zoom, and we'll make sure to cover that. But your thoughts just that you shared just now, Renee, that kind of also reminded me about the other powerful tools that Caspio offers in terms of both the proposal and the MVP phases or the pilot phase, which is our ready-to-use app templates. So we have a library of more than 30 of the most commonly requested applications. Besides that, there's a ton of videos that are technical evangelists, net page hosts on YouTube that go, from how to build an asset management application to inventory management, HR, operations, etc. All of these templates can be leveraged to both in the proposal making process to kind of show actual live demo screens instead of just abstract ideas, and also during the demo phase or the pilot phase can drastically cut down your development time because you will often find that 70 to 80% of the most common functionality is already implemented in the template. All you need to do is that 20 to 30% customization that the client might need. So definitely wanted to bring that up as well. And so moving on to, apart from, we did cover quite a few benefits that the clients can reap from Caspio in terms of speed of execution, etc., lower cost, lower risk. What are some of the benefits for the management consulting firm itself, Renee?
We've talked a little bit about that, but if I were to classify them, there are benefits from the, as a value proposition, as a firm, as a consulting firm, it improves your value proposition by, as I said, show results of your projects while you're still engaged. So that's priceless, right? So that's one of the benefits. Standardizing some of your analysis while you're doing some standard analysis in your engagement. For example, in process improvements, we do a lot of time studies, right? And what I mentioned of time stamping, this is something that you can have an app within your firm to standardize that data collection and analysis, and it will not only speed you up, as a firm, you're more efficient, but also you kind of guaranteeing quality control when in some of the tools that your consultants are using. So that's a plus, but it's also reflected in a better product for your clients. Now, internally, as a firm, one of the biggest benefits I think that something like a low-code option gives, it's a new revenue stream. It's a new revenue stream after you finish a project. I mean, if you go through the route that I mentioned in the work plan, if you remember the upper branch of that work plan, that's a SaaS solution, effectively, a solution that you as a firm built for your client using low-code tools, and that you could sell the support and maintenance of that tool or the improvement, and create a new revenue stream for your practice. So that's a very interesting benefit. So much so that it goes to the point that at the beginning, Nick, that you said about these large firms doing their own digital deployments is because they saw that opportunity, right? So that's on one side. So it's an additional revenue stream. It's a high margin revenue stream. They're going down. I mean, as I mentioned, you kind of decouple the economics of the firm by not having to invest that many hours of consultant time. You just did that during the project, and then you have a tool that you can have a software like margin, which is really interesting, as we all know. And thirdly, I think that the superpower part cannot be underestimated. Actually, when you're have this new revenue stream as a product, as a SaaS, you have the superpower to keep in touch with your client without, you have the perfect excuse to knock the door again a couple months after you finished, after you're out there. For those that are in the consulting profession, you know that it's really hard to re-engage with clients, even though it went well and the project was successful. It's always hard to get the phone to be picked up by everyone that you call. So having a tool that is already working there, you can always have the excuse of, let me touch base with you. How's the tool going on? What are the things that you're looking at? Oh, so by the way, in the process, what things did you uncover? And you might, understand a little bit more what your client's going through and if there is an opportunity there. So those conversations are priceless for business development. So you have the benefit of providing value during your stay or during your engagement, create a new revenue stream, and continue or give you a warm lead for future projects because you're there. So that if I were to convince anyone in the audience about, who is a consultant, I mean, those three things should be more than enough to at least try to
Right.
move on this direction, right? So.
And maybe let's, Renee, if you don't mind, let's kind of relate this to the audience with a live example. I believe you had recently used Caspio, or at least some time back, for that STEP project. If we could walk through that example. Sure. As almost like a case study for the benefit of the audience, that'd be great.
Sure. Let me. So. Before we go there, we have used the platform for many processes in different industries. So we have done financial services. We have done, as I mentioned, commercial credit origination, the appraisal reviews, but we have done procurement, credit evaluation, workflows for several of our clients. Actually, for government, we have done that too. And the healthcare, which is the project that you mentioned, the STEP project, we did improvement in the process from sales to enrollment for specific, healthcare plans. We coordinated transportation we made an app for coordinated transportation and services, and for some of the utilities. And I think we talked about this in a previous webinar where we improved the talent management practices and processes using Caspio. And internally, that V2A Consulting did some internal tools that would standardize what how they worked. Now, as Axelita, we have done a bunch of implementations in Caspio and outside Caspio, and the example that I'm going to give you, the STEP example, it's a great example of how something started from a consulting engagement and ended up being a product. That was sold, standalone product, commercialized separately from the consulting business. So this product specifically is called, we call that STEP, and it is just, for lack of a better marketing person, it's like a sales to enrollment process. It's STEP. So it was to us consultants, it was catchy, and we thought about it during a project. We were doing as I said, a sales optimization project for a Medicare Advantage plan in the US. And this process, the one that I'm showing right now, is the process that every Medicare Advantage plan in the United States has to follow by regulation. So it's a heavily regulated process. which it was good if you think about it as, it has that can become a product and has a good client base that it's forced to use the process anyhow by a regulator. So in this process, at high level, you have the leads. Every sales process comply with these stages, right? So you generate the leads, then you sell, or you basically talk to the person that you're selling something, and then you enroll or incorporate into the client base the client. So these 3 steps were performed by multiple people at multiple places. For example, the lead generation was done by people on the streets, just walking in malls. This is, by the way, for those that are non-US based, Medicare Advantage plans are a healthcare type of plans that are for people that are 65 years old or older. So they're for senior people. And so they're a way to take care about the elderly in the United States. And this is done through multiple methods. This is a whole industry, right? Very complex industry. But the idea of the process or difficulty of the process is that since it's very regulated, you have to have every step of the process had to be documented. So when we engage our client as to how to improve that process, we already have the Caspio chip in our minds, and we could understand, by understanding the process, make the connection how we can solve that using a technology tool. So at every stage, we developed a digital version of what at that point in time was all paper-based. And so we could digitalize the whole process. And in that by doing that, we enabled more efficiency and effectiveness on the side of our client, but also improve the compliance. And regulators will be very keen to look for to understand if you're doing the process right. So they would actually have audits of this process every year. They would sample some of these enrollments and see if you comply with every step. By having this in a digital format, and we're talking 2014, 15, okay, when we started doing this. CMS, which is the regulator, I think we were the first or one of the first to do a full digital process. We had to be approved by CMS. So it was actually approved by CMS. So when you think about this complex process and have a low-code tool, we could have different consultants work on different pieces of the problem in parallel. So we could deploy a tool in a couple months that in a traditional development would have cost hundreds of hours in development and much more time in developing. One thing that I have to say here that we could do this because I think we were one of the first users of HIPAA compliant Caspio plans. So because Caspio was compliant and you built the whole environment over AWS with all the security features that are required by the regulators, we could then turn around and develop these things and this tool and develop for our clients. So in a very essential way, we're very proud of it because we not only could enable our clients, but in the productization phase where we thought, okay, so we solved this client's problem. Now, how can we make a product so that we can just go to other clients and sell it? We could develop, a self-service kind of approach to this product, very much like a SaaS product. And we went through all that phase, creating different roles for different users within clients, and developing the tool from in a way that it was easy to implement and in a very short time span. With this particular tool, though, we did invest a lot in UI. So what you see here is Caspio, right, with a very custom UI made for an iPad. So the agents who were on the street, just walking or visiting and making visits, could easily access the information about who they were visiting and capture results and start the the whole enrollment process. As I said, documenting every interaction so that it could be audited and approved without any consequence by, internal compliance and finally by the regulator. So you had very nice UI with, this is essentially a kind of a CRM specifically made for the industry. So you had the enrollees of the agent and where to register the lead and all the forms that are standard. They could be built into the tool and generated in PDF format. So it was very nice to work. We even capture some signatures in the iPad so that you could, incorporate in the application. And on top of that, we also built some BI from the Caspio tool. We could just do this is a little bit more of external coding, so we could shape it in a way that it would fit. But in the initial versions of the tool, we used the ready-made charts from Caspio, which allowed us to do the typical pipeline analysis of a sales optimization tool such as this one. So it was a very interesting experience to go from the MVP, as I mentioned, in a client, to a full rollout, to a productization of a product. And actually, this opened the door for several consulting clients and standalone SaaS clients with this step tool. So I think it's a complete end-to-end example. I don't know if you have any questions or anyone has any questions about this. So
no, that's beautiful. That shows, that's a testament to how low-code, no-code can be used throughout the entire cycle. And just a couple of thoughts that came to my mind as you were sharing this were that during this pandemic, there were a lot of businesses, especially in the healthcare space, that had to really pivot really fast. They had to cater to completely new demands and requirements. Many of them opted for low-code, no-code. At Caspio, we saw several startups rolling out their entire product lines on Caspio. We have case studies of customers such as Snap Healthcare and others on our website that illustrate this example very powerfully. And yeah, absolutely. So that was great to understand. What I also want to quickly move over to some of the questions from the audience. And so this is from Ernesto from Spain. And he says, Renee, you've mentioned two very important key points at the beginning: strategy and implementation. And so when you have a new project with a customer, where do you think is the most added value that you can provide to customers when it comes to no-code, low-code solutions? Is it in building up the strategy, or is it with the implementation?
Well, it depends on the kind of engagement that you're in, right? Because, for certain engagements, you could, using low-code, improve your strategy because you can go faster to develop things faster and enable the key processes in your strategy. So let's say, when you think strategically, if you want to serve your clients better because you want to deliver a faster process or faster application processes, as it was one of the cases, it was a competitive issue. So, other banks were delivering the same product faster than our client was. So it was a strategic, project to develop that or to improve that timeline. So using low code aligned perfectly with that need. And so we could, use it as part of the strategy to develop something really quickly so that we can, match or exceed what our competition is offering. So on the strategic side, it does help you think, what can I do and when, by understanding how powerful, what are the pros and cons of the low code. We haven't talked about the cons. Everything has pros and cons, but when you're thinking about the strategy, low code allows you to do that. Of course, when you're thinking about implementation, the low code tool can help you monitor that implementation and keep the pulse of that and iterate faster. So to your question, Ernesto, it touches on the two things, and we use it at the two dimensions. We use it when thinking high level and thinking about the problems that we're trying to solve for the client and what would be the highest impact, and that you can the high priority projects. You want to develop that fast and deliver value quickly. But on the implementation side, you can also think about, what are those pain points that are, not allowing us to run as fast as we can and do, tactical implementation there using low code. So we use them for both. I can hear you, Nick. You're mute.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So to cover one of the points that you mentioned just now is everything has pros and cons. Obviously, there are some disadvantages or risks or challenges with low code, no code as well, as there are with everything out there. So, what are some of those key points that I think that's also part of Ernesto's question as well. But, what are some of these key points that customers should keep in mind, as well as how do you address some of those risks and challenges?
Yeah, and I think that Ernesto mentioned here, so the customer adapting to low code tools. I think, since we've been doing this since 2012, we've been kind of, we've seen the change. When we started doing this, having a cloud-based tool was something that most of our clients didn't like that much. Okay, so they were hesitant, and mostly when they're heavily regulated, it's understandable. So the educational phase that we had to go through, they were really long. It took us a couple months just to get them understand what was that we were doing with cloud, and actually Caspio helped us a lot in that process, because you could explain from the technical side point of view how it worked and what were the security features that it offers. So, but that has changed a lot. So a lot of clients right now are very well versed with how cloud works and what are the benefits of cloud. And so that, that it's kind of out of the way in a way right now. So being cloud, it's one of the things that was a con. Now it's kind of a pro. However, one of the things that we have encountered with some of our clients, I have a dog crying here, so I apologize if you hear it. So one of the things that our clients sometimes hesitate to go through the low code route, it's more the technical guys, technical people are that they have no control over the code. So the code resides at Caspio, if you will. And so if they wanted to port that from AWS to Azure, that's something that, because of the nature of what the tool, Caspio tool is, they cannot do, right? So that's a con in certain instances. Some of the clients have been able to go over that because we have shown that, it's easier to manage this as a platform residing in AWS, and you're not giving away any of the benefits of cost or security. But, still, if all your stack it's in Azure and you want to be living in Microsoft Azure, then this would be something that will be a con using Caspio. There might be another low-code tool that you can run in Azure, but that's the other thing. Another con that we have found and it's a kind of, it comes with the territory when you develop this fast. The other con that you find is that clients think that development is always this quick, and so it becomes kind of a curse. So you start iterating too much because you start changing and changing and changing so fast that the
Sorry, I think we lost you, Renee, did we?
Yeah,
Renee, I think we lost your audio there for a minute. We can't hear you. No. Renee, we can't hear you. No, we cannot hear you, Renee. We lost your audio for a minute. Yeah, maybe it's the AirPods. But yeah, I think in the meantime, while Renee gets back, just wanted to go, let the audio. Yeah, I thought I heard something from you, Renee. So for the benefit of the audience, just to quick one is, of course, Q&A. If you have any last minute Q&A, feel free to chime in. I will also, I think we were pretty much anyway towards the end of the content that we had planned to cover, and we're also at the top of the hour here. So just for those who might be interested in partnering with us at Caspio, we just wanted to, share some different engagement models that Rene and his firms have worked with us on, and that you as a partner can avail of. You can work in a reseller capacity, bundling Caspio as part of an overall management consulting engagement to the customer, and it can be either something that you specifically mention, as Rene's firm does in several instances, or it can be white labeled, where the customer doesn't even need to know that it's Caspio running under the hood. Then, as you also, as Rene mentioned, of course, if you're seeing that particular scenario play out at several different clients, you can actually productize the IP. All of the code, the data always remains under your ownership. You can productize the IP and resell it to several clients, or use it as a differentiator in your consulting practices. Nowadays, almost all of the management consulting firms, ranging from the top ones to boutique ones, are all coming up with these productized offerings as ways to differentiate themselves. So that's also something that you can do. Eventually, there are plans also of launching an app store on the Caspio on marketplace, where besides just the app templates that Caspio makes available, partners might also be able to list their own work and their own templates for sale. That could be another way to go to market. And besides that, of course, there is always the referral capacity as well, where you may or may not want to do an engagement, as we covered earlier, that you can rely on Caspio's managed application services offering, or our professional services offerings as well, where if you want to do a complete turnkey type of a development, we are happy to do that for you. Of course, Rene and his firm also has more than a decade of experience on Caspio. They would also be happy to talk to you about it. And of course, one of the other important advantages of being a certified partner with Caspio is also that you get an opportunity to list your firm on our partner directory and avail or take advantage of leads that we send your way as well. And so, yeah, I think that was about it in terms of content that we wanted to cover for today's webinar. And we don't see any further questions here. So we'll let you get back to your day. And we hope this was a informative and educational webinar for you. Matt, any last words on your end?
No, I just want to thank everyone for attending here. Thanks, Rene, for joining us.
Thank you.
Talking about everything today. But thanks for all our attendees, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
You have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, man.